And we would just save you the element of time. You know, there's a lot of tailors in Dubai, because Dubai, as much as you think it's big, it's actually not that big, but traffic's a nightmare. If you're trying to go down and get a suit, it could be 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back. You could get 3 or 4 fittings. Like, suited and booted, right? It's in the name. You think you just go in and get a suit. That's not necessarily the case. It's like a network. It's like a community. They host events. They do everything.
They link people. I think that's the beautiful thing as well. If you've been in any of the spaces from any of the stores, there's different people getting fittings, but they're sort of chatting to other people. What do you do? And there's so many people being linked, and it might not turn into the biggest business deal in the world, but these things you don't normally get, and that's what we're really trying to change. Everybody's performance carries weight, right? And sometimes that can be a real barrier where you feel like, how am I going to relate to this person? You come from a different walk of life, or even you're just having an off day that day and you think, I don't have my best chat, or I'm not feeling too confident. But I think you have an easier time with those sort of people who've been on that journey, because they understand it. They've been where you've been, and they understand. They've seen higher up, and they're like, listen, it's not everything it's got it to be. And he said this sentiment, it was brilliant. It's like, look, we sing this song to ourselves, but we're the one that writes the lyrics. Yeah. So why not change the lyrics?
Hello and welcome back to the Built Different podcast with your host, Stephen Pettigrew. My guests this week are Dillon and Michael from Suited and Booted. Suited and Booted are a premium formal and casual wear brand in Glasgow, with stores in Glasgow, Abu Dhabi and Dubai. And I'm really excited to announce that the guys at Suited and Booted are the new podcast sponsors. So without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Dillon, Michael, great to have you on the podcast. How are you both today?
Good, mate. Good. Thanks for having us on.
No, welcome. It's I knew before starting this podcast you two boys would outdress me, so I didn't even try and compete today. Got my old shirt on and stuff, so you're looking well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
You guys are obviously part of the Suited and Booted team in Glasgow, and for anyone that doesn't know, hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, you guys are the new sponsors and partners for the podcast, which I'm really, really delighted about. So thanks again for your support on that.
Pleasure, mate. Yeah, absolute pleasure.
You boys had a late night last night, I heard. You were out in Amsterdam quite late.
Let's not get that.
We try to do us up like a strictly professional.
It was a work trip, and we did meet Ryan and Calvin, and God is our witness that we didn't do anything Amsterdam like in Amsterdam. So we were out there meeting some manufacturers, doing a bit of buying trip, a bit of buying for the next season, which went relatively well. Felt like a very successful really trip. Well. But I think, working well, we work a lot of the guys that we work with think that it's just a jolly, but it's like you're still out to midnight, having dinners and discussing work. It's no, you're not.
You've got to keep that energy up there, because and that's quite tricky to do sometimes, isn't it?
Oh, that's the big challenge. To be fair, even with yourself, even with your own crew like us, the four of us, there comes wee lulls where somebody will dip, and the rest of us will kind of pull somebody up, and you're always kind of riding that wave. Dillon rides the wave 24/7.
I knew that was coming. Like, we had Ryan and Calvin obviously operating Dubai. They had separate conversations about Dubai that Michael and I not weren't privy to, but didn't really need to be involved in. So we kind of stepped away and maybe looked at, just to try and use up the best of our time, as opposed to just sitting there. And I remember saying to Michael, I'm like yeah, a bit done. He's like, mate, sometimes you just need a minute to be
decompressing.
That's my thoughts. But it's true, like a lot of the time, I probably shouldn't say this, but a lot of the time it's like I just find comedy timing and say something like where everybody's just
at
like
the best worst moment.
Aye, everybody's just like flat, and I'm even flat myself, but it just comes to me.
You need it.
Aye.
You do need it, definitely.
When I was getting fitted for clothes the other day, because I know what you mean, you're quite witty, I think your comment to me was my arse was in duress or something. Something like that.
Sounds like something you'd say.
Sounds like something I would say.
Your arse is under duress. Write that down.
That's a good one.
Something like I think it was about the lining in your trousers, wasn't it? Your current trousers. It's a bit weird that you didn't have them on, but
so you've mentioned Ryan and Calvin a couple of times already. What is their involvement in the business? Did they start the business? Am I right in saying that?
So I moved out to Dubai in 2017. Michael will be sick of me telling this story because he hears it 3-4 times a day.
It changes every time it's told.
That's shocking. That isn't true. So 2017, Ryan kind of just went out there, got me. I moved out. We were completely mobile. We didn't have a store. We'd go to your gym, your house, hotels. There's been stories that we measure people up in the golf course and stuff. And we would just save you the element of time. There's a lot of tailors in Dubai, because Dubai, as much as you think it's big, it's actually not that big, but traffic's a nightmare. If you're trying to go down and get a suit, it could be 40 minutes there, 40 minutes back. You could get 3 or 4 fittings. So we would come to your office, we would come to your gym, we would meet you anywhere, show you fabric.
Busy as well.
Aye, everything. It's just you've been, so you know.
Yeah.
It's just it's a world full of convenience out there.
Totally.
So all we did was save people the element of time. It worked really well. It gained legs really quickly. Calvin, I came back for personal reasons, and Calvin obviously came on board now. Him and Ryan are, they're business partners. They share it, and I mean, Dubai is incredible. It's a really successful shop. But what I would say about it is, it's like, people think it's just a suit shop. It's like suited and booted, right? It's in the name. You think you just go in and get a suit. That's not necessarily the case. It's like a network. It's like a community. They host events. They do everything.
They link people. I think that's the beautiful thing as well. If you've been in any of the spaces from any of the stores, there's different people getting fittings, but they're sort of chatting to other people. What do you do? And there's so many people being linked, and it might not turn into the biggest business deal in the world, but these things you don't normally get, and that's what we're really trying to change. Is like, you don't really get that on any other high street, or even in the big streets in Paris and all that sort of stuff. Nobody's really like, oh, how are you doing, mate? How's that going? It's all just like
networking,
wait in a queue and there's your bag and away you go.
But we noticed that as well when we were in Amsterdam, because you obviously do a bit of market research or whichever, but we sell expensive clobber, right? So we like to go and have a look at it. So we went into, no name anybody, but we went into certain shops, and it's almost like certain shops, like we were in a queue in a shop. It's like, and I mean, we weren't stood in a queue. We were told, that's your number in the queue, we'll come and get you.
It's very clinical, isn't it?
So we were just sat at a waiting room. You come into our shop, you're offered a tea, you're offered a coffee, whether you buy a t-shirt or a suit, you don't buy anything. You get treated with that. And I think coming from premium retail, or like always kind of selling premium, I don't understand why you wouldn't do that. Like, I struggle. Like, I don't feel like anytime somebody comes in the shop, and you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but regardless if you're up here or down there, everybody gets treated the same, right?
And it's how you feel, isn't it? Because if you make that person, the client, feel good, they're going to come back.
Of course.
If they just get a suit, it's like, it's just another suit. But it is the experience you guys provide. I've only been to the Glasgow store, but obviously heard great things about Glasgow and Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing it's the kind of same feel over there.
There's definitely synergy between, and there's synergy between all shops, but that's essentially the mantra. They was like, exceptional customer service. Like, I found myself in hotel rooms at 10 o'clock at night, even in Glasgow, measuring people. And I found myself at 8 in the morning, just, delivering suits or measuring people up. It's like, we just have that conversation. See, if nobody else is doing it, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to provide that service, right? Because it's future equity. Totally. That's the way I see it.
And it's encouraged as well. I think that's why you do obviously your hiring process and all that sort of stuff, but that's never really guaranteed that you're going to get the right people to do the right things. I think it's brand ethos, right? That all kind of trickles down even for the boys. They live and breathe that. So it's easier for people to take a chance and say, I'm going to put on a dinner for a big client, or I'm going to go to somebody's business at 10 at night, because the boys will unlock you to go do that and encourage you to almost treat it like it's your own business essentially. So I think that's why it just works, because we all encourage each other to be a bit bolder and braver and do the things that nobody's doing, and that's where that level of service comes from, I think, to be fair.
No, I would agree. I just totally piggybacking what you were saying. Like, the people we rub shoulders with the majority of the time aren't the people you just speak to in the street.
Yep, totally.
Aye,
totally.
But there's normal people at the end of the day, right? So regardless if you are high net worth, or regardless if you're shopping for a suit for a wedding, it's like you come in, everybody experiences the exact same experience. Aye, of course.
Do you know, we were talking before we hit record, and we had a few laughs before we hit record, but put people on a pedestal, and it's the same even famous people, celebrities, football players, etc. You kind of think, don't want to go and speak to them, but they're normal people.
100%.
Of course.
That's where the barrier is. I think it's the pedestal. I think it's because everybody's performance carries weight, right? And sometimes that can be a real barrier, or you feel like, well, how am I going to relate to this person? You come from a different walk of life, or maybe even you're just having an off day that day and you think, I don't have my best chat, or I'm not feeling too confident. But I think you have an easier time with those sort of people who have been on that journey, because they understand it. They've been where you've been, and they understand. They've seen higher up, and they're like, listen, it's not everything it's got to be. There's still people that...
Oh, they've usually got a dark past till these people in
true.
haven't they?
And I think, like, the times that becomes an issue is when, one, people can't get out their own way, or two, it's ego driven. And I think that's massive. From one thing I've noticed with working with the guys, and even working closely with us, is like, see, if we're wrong, we hold our hand up. We don't try and run with something that doesn't work, right? So, you know, if you need to be corrected, you get corrected. It's no personal, it's business. Everybody operates under that kind of...
There's no ego.
Exactly. So it's like, right, cool, if you're right about that, then fair dues it. But if I think you're wrong about that, and then you go and do it and prove me right, it's like, brilliant, it worked, because we're all chasing, but we're all aiming towards one thing, right? The greater good.
Well, ego just gets in the way of progress, I think, sometimes. And sometimes I think that's what happens at the loftier tables. People will be like, oof, he's quite hungry, or he might take food off my plate. Nah, let's not include that. So I think bursting into those rooms and just being like, I'm going to have a voice here, I think is the most admirable bit. But it's hard. It's
like confidence, no arrogance, right? I've heard that so many times through every job I've had. It's like, you know, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance. And through some people we've met, not necessarily clients, but being in rooms with certain people, is like, there is a way to command a room, and there's a way to lose a room. And we've met people who have tried to command rooms and just lost them the minute they've walked in, right?
Just the way they carry themselves.
You know, snide remarks, like saying things, and it's like, look, listen, see, us all being in this room to stay, like all in this room at the one time, we're here to stay. Like we have no plans about leaving this room, and we've proved that we can be in there.
Absolutely.
So.
Guys, Stephen here with a quick interruption to this podcast, and it's for good reason, as I wanted to share with you my partner for the podcast, Suited and Booted. Suited and Booted are a premium formal and casual wear brand with stores across Glasgow, Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I partnered up with Suited and Booted because they have a fantastic service, a great team and great products. And if you want to know more about these guys, head to suitedbooted.com or visit one of their stores in Glasgow, Dubai or Abu Dhabi. I mean, from the outside, it looked like you have kind of really exploited a gap in the market, because some of the other, again, you don't need to mention competitors, but when I think of competitors maybe in your space, they are so... maybe clinical isn't the right word as such, but they just don't provide that level of service you guys do, and welcoming stores and stuff. When it started with Ryan yourself, Dillon, was the aim always to, you know, expand into other areas, eventually get back to Glasgow, because Dubai's quite an interesting place to start? What was the kind of thinking behind starting out there?
See, to be fair, like I went out with the understanding that I was going to help Ryan, you know, drive sales. You can see it when you have a conversation with Ryan. Ryan lives and breathes Suited and Booted. That doesn't necessarily mean to say that we ever had a conversation about where he could see that would go, but he is quite visionary, and I think adding Calvin into the mix, you know, probably just makes that just like scale, because two of them, you know, are entrepreneurs at heart. But I never had the conversation with, you know, I think Ryan's opinion would always be that he wanted to be the best, and he's always wanted to be the best, right? But it's not necessarily being the best, and it doesn't matter how I get there. You know, he would bend over backwards for every client, almost to a fault. Like, and I've seen it. You know, it's nothing's never too much. And you know, if he's made up, if somebody's like questioning him, he'll make sure that he try and does his best to fix the problem. Like when we were starting out, like, people were asking us things that were like unrealistic, you know, like these things are happening when I do this and stuff, and it took us quite a while, like, but it definitely took Ryan quite a while, because he wants to, you know, obviously he's
perfectionist.
He is a perfectionist, and it took him quite a while to say, like, well, the reason that's happening is because this and this. You'll never do that. So it's almost revolutionary in a way. It's like, what if we can actually fix the issue that they want us to fix, right? So I hope that was probably a roundabout way about answering the question, but I think he always wanted to be the best. You need more than one location, right? to have the coverage of the market that you want, you need to have more than one location. So Dubai actually started in the year of COVID. So they'd sorted out the shop and stuff. And, you know, my understanding is that I go out quite a bit. You know, I try and go out every year, but it was like, it was a workshop, you know, because they employ all their own tailors. So it's like workshop, meeting room.
Yep.
And it was all in the one place. And then it was 2 meeting rooms, workshop, and then it was all in one place. And then it was meeting room, showroom, meeting room. And then it was workshop next door,
right, okay,
on the same level. And now it's 2 workshops, place for all the admin, place for stock, showroom, 3 meeting rooms, and it's just grew. So, you know, they employ about 70 tailors.
Wow, so, I didn't realise it was that many.
It's not until you see the Dubai physical space that it becomes even more impressive when you see, my God, that's what everything's been driven out of that tiny little space, and it's amazing. Even when you go in there, it's a buzz, and there's like 3 or 4 different groups of clients, and everybody's feeding off each other. So it's probably fast tracked the growth, it being so small at that moment.
You know, and I kind of suppose it makes sense. I mean, I suppose your best target audience is in that part of the world, isn't it? It's people with money, people with resources, they want to look good. I'm guessing that was the thinking behind it, you know.
And a lot of people are out there away for their families.
Yeah.
They're looking for community. So
Yeah.
I think it really does play into the strengths of the boys, and fair play to them, they've exploited it massively.
Yeah, I think that's what Ryan and probably Calvin noticed at first, is like, people are there to support, you know.
Aye.
When the company started, I wasn't actually physically in Dubai when the company started. It was started, and then I went out a couple of weeks later. And it was essentially, you know, back then the power of social media. And that's, it was like, you know, a post on British dads Dubai, or British families, or British mums Dubai. Forgive me, I don't actually know, because I wasn't on the post, the page.
You're on British mums though.
That's a different post.
That's a different post.
Amsterdam version.
So the post went on, and, you know, they had a phone number, and the phone started ringing, and I would like to say that's all she wrote, but it definitely wasn't. You know, there wasn't enough hours in the day. You know, we were measuring people up, helping clients select garments, and then driving to the tailors, whilst driving to the tailors, picking up whichever fittings.
As you say, the traffic's horrendous in Dubai as well to try and get around.
It's only getting worse now.
Yeah.
Some mornings we were doing, you know, 8, 9 in the morning to like 11 at night. You know, some mornings it was like maybe sometimes till like 1 in the morning. You know, I would meet, if Ryan had a few more things to do and I was in the area, because I stayed there, and I'd just go grab some stuff, help him with whatever he had to do. But you never thought it as, you know, it was never, I'm knackered, I'm done, and I'm doing all these hours, because you'll know yourself, slightly different for here, because not only is it a different demographic, there's not the level of wealth, but there's not the level of service, right? So, you know, you can go to Dubai Mall at 10 o'clock at night and the shops are still open, and you can buy something, that you can go out for, you know, because of the time difference, you can go out and sit in, you know, a shisha lounge or whichever, and watch football that's happening back home, you know, 12, 1 in the morning. So it's like, the place never stops. So
it's full on, isn't it?
Aye. So you can still, you can live a great life, albeit the work hard, play hard things probably more apparent. But, you know, it's like here, 6 o'clock, everything shuts down.
Yeah, I know.
So I think the best way we get round that, just to kind of take the conversation back when you were talking about competition and all that sort of stuff, we don't really too much pay attention to what anybody else is doing, mostly because when people come into our place, in our showroom, we work with the client. I think that's the main thing that we really try and drive home, is that people come in and they've got questions that they're maybe feeling insecure about asking. Should this be like this? Should this be like that? What's going to be paired with that? So sometimes you spend 2 hours with a guy or a woman, and sometimes you'll be 65% of the time not even speaking about suits, style, anything like that. You're just chatting about football, their work, their day, whatever it is. So I think for the most part, we obviously have so much wealth of knowledge in that store. We're like a wee sort of super team, which is amazing. But half the time, you just disarm the people by just sort of being normal, genuine people. There's not like a hard sell.
Yeah, that's
Our
a great
knowledge
point.
is the main thing that people come to us for. But then after you've got that out of the way, it's more relationship
Do you
building.
know when you go to these other stores in the past, like I've been to a suit store and I won't name them, various ones, but it's, you know, big bright lights, it's very clinical, it's very, maybe silly to say this, it's very formal. It's obviously a suit store, right? But with you guys, you're right, it's welcoming atmosphere. he's are very friendly. I mean, my experience of getting fitted as well was very similar, you know, but also didn't have a clue what the hell I was looking for. You guys managed to coach me through it.
Common. So for the most part, I think what we're really trying to say is there's no right lock a door behind them. We're desperate for every sale. It's more a consultation every time we speak to someone, find out what it is.
It's not pushy.
No,
it's not pushy at all.
And listen, there obviously comes a point where every business needs to make money, right? But that's where you back yourself over the product, and we are so lucky that we work with incredible product every day. But maybe that gives us that sort of confidence on the back end that we know as soon as we explain to you what it kind of, where the direction you could go and where you could take that and where the market's going, we're going to be able to back it up because we know exactly what we're telling you. And like we've just said,
keep an eye on the trends and stuff.
We bought it. We were there sort of feeling it and thinking it over. And we've got to a point now where I firmly believe this will be the year where we kind of stand up from the table and our voice is heard a lot stronger, rather than, because we've been taking it in, and it's the first year's obviously been absorb the market, see where we're at, but now the products that we're pushing is
incredible. And again, just to jump on what Michael was saying, like we aren't concerned because, like, again, you're the captain of your own ship, right? Like you focus on what you're doing. You know, somebody said to me one time, it was actually my pal, and I think he was taking the piss when he said it to me, right? Because I was in a high pressure sales job, and I remember being negged out, and I was speaking to him, and I was like, this is happening, that is happening, blah 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 blah, and it was the most like. It was like the most unique response, because he's a bigger piss taker than me, right? And we've spoke about him. He's the funniest boy ever, right? He just responded, "Losers focus on winners, winners focus on winning." And I was like, "Cheers, mate." And I was like, "Aye, phone away, cheers." Aye, totally. And it probably got followed up with some stupid meme or something. But that stuck with me, and I know that sounds ridiculous, because he's the guy. Well, it's not really ridiculous, but he's the guy that I would go to make me laugh at a situation. But he's just delivered this profound bit of knowledge that's been let into his stuff. I was like, wow, that's incredible.
Didn't even know the guy had it in him.
I've been in sales rooms with him. I've been in sales rooms with him, and like, you know, you're trying to drive home targets and, you know, sales tactics and, you know, training and that, and he's just took the utter piss. And it's like, now I'm that guy, right? But I'm like, at the time, you're like, well, fuck,
there's so much value in that, the way.
Aye.
Sometimes when you just need somebody to break the ice, and you're like, right, okay, it's not actually as bad as it seems.
It's never as bad, isn't it? Like, there's so many situations I've been in as well where, like, in the moment feels horrible. Like, this is the worst thing in the world, but a few days later, it's like, that wasn't that bad. And especially, time's a healer, isn't it? So even a few months later, it's like, that was nothing. I can deal with a lot more than that.
100%. It's like, I think if you're wired that way, like, I think some people can sit in it for longer than others, but I think if you can see that there's a wee lesson in there to try and move on from it, then that's got to be the biggest value. But comedy helps. Definitely helps.
Good.
So I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to flip the script. Tell us about you.
About me. So, you've not been listening to my podcast then, have you?
The reason I asked that, Davey, is
how's the hairdressing going?
Come back for episode 2 if you want to hear that story. The reason I ask that is because I've seen some clips. And the one that you're speaking about, good save, and the one that you're speaking about, Davey, was your parents being very successful and you kind of following into that bracket and then having to shift your identity, or kind of there was an identity shift within that. Obviously, I've only seen the clips of that. It would be interesting to hear more in depth about that, and you're going to say listen to the episode, didn't you?
It's funny. Well, you should listen to that episode, because it went a weird direction, that one, because it was a guy down in Liverpool, and we went down a conspiracy path. So I always wanted to talk about all sorts of random stuff like JFK and did we land the moon. It was quite funny. But I own that point. So my mum and dad had a business when I was born. So 90, I say born, I think 78. It was 97. 97 they started it, so I was 5 or something. So I grew up in this business and it turned into an absolute monster. It was doing like 35 million quid a year for 7 or 8 years in a row. It was massive, 400 staff. And I was the ops director of that business for the age of 21.
Wow.
But from the age of 14, I was in the business working during school holidays and stuff. So I didn't have any real school holidays, you know, playing with your pals, football and stuff. I was grafting in the warehouse and stuff. So got a good work ethic for that. But as you grow up, you kind of expect to become like almost the heir to that business because you don't know anything else.
And was that driven into you?
Aye, so particularly for my dad. So he was that was all his life was effectively was running this business. You know, because he'd started it from nothing and grew into this monster, becomes all encompassing. You know, and takes over. But yeah, I think his plan was for me to eventually do that. But there's a lot of reasons why that went under. But effectively, it went over very quick. So it was doing a lot of profit. I think for years it was doing like 4.5 mil profit a year. It was massive. And when I was managing these staff as well, I've learned a lot of lessons, how to manage people, how to hire people. And that was from different backgrounds as well. But when it went under very quickly, and the way it went under, it kind of gave you a thick skin. And then it's like, shit, what do I do now? Like I thought I was going to be running this business for next, even though I looked back, I didn't want to. Yeah. Because it wasn't mine. And then it was like, right, okay, I need to pivot and do something else here. And you try different things, and eventually you get into starting businesses and acquiring businesses. That wasn't the plan initially. You know, you eventually fall into that, and you find somebody that's pretty cool. And starting businesses is very difficult though, you know, and obviously there's a lot of hardship in there. It's not easy. It's not easy. But a lot of people listening to this will be going through like similar struggles. Like every business owner, every business, people are involved in business. It's no easy. And you know, I think even the most successful people have many failures. I think some mad stat about Michael Jordan you mentioned earlier, like everybody remembers him for being the best basketball player, but he missed like thousands and thousands of shots.
Game-winning shots, not just you know, shots that didn't count or didn't matter, like game-winning shots.
Constantly. So so that was an interesting time for me. But again, I'm so glad I went through that because it does shape you as a person.
I think not to get too philosophical and stuff, but I was, you know, having a chat with somebody and it was along the lines of pain. And if you look at pain and you get to the root and you get over it, like you're saying, times of healing and stuff, right? There is actually beauty in pain because, you know, you're always learning.
You need contrast, don't you? Like if everything was great all the time, you wouldn't know what was great anymore.
Well, exactly. And it's like nothing good comes easy, right? And the reason I'm saying that is because I've been pitching this book to everybody, Hunter. Like I hope I should get shares in this book. I'm getting shares in this book, right? We've recently, you know, acquired a business coach, and he's took us through some business some business coaching and stuff. Not because the business isn't successful, just because we want to go to the next level, right? And then he had solo calls with management, and you know, he mentioned this book to me. Well, we had a conversation, and like I live on the surface. Like you can probably tell that. Like I react with a joke or I respond with a joke, but when things get deep, I tend to be like, I don't need to be there. But we started getting deep about my life, and you know, he said, I think when we went out for dinner, he said something to me like Dillon, there's a boy in there that wants to smile, and I'm like tearing up. I'm like, ready to burst at greeting. So if you say that to me, I might start there. No, but to go back to it, but I digressed a wee bit there. But to go back to why I was mentioning that is he told me to read this book called The Untethered Soul, and it just completely flipped the script for me. Changed the mindset in terms of like how I look at things that are bothering me and energy that's passing through you and stuff. And he said this saying to me, and it was brilliant. It's like, look, we sing this song to ourselves, but we're the one that writes the lyrics. So why not change the lyrics? And I'm like, that's totally. So that when you were speaking to me about what you'd obviously experienced when I'd seen the eclipse and stuff, I thought that was really apparent. Like things like that in my life, like why am I writing bad lyrics to my life? Like you need to spend
you use so much of your history as well to like paint the future. So I even think like me coming on board with Suited and Booted, and I had been in the industry for quite a while. I was using what history and what I'd had before and how I'd had success before, and trying to sort of mould that into going forward. And it was the same with Aiden. That was the big thing, was there's so much freedom in someone saying to you, just let it go. Like it's fine, but it's quite difficult because you kind of hold on to it and use it as a crutch. But that probably pushed me personally in my career forward, was being able to say, right, that was good up until now, but now I need a different set of tools to take me to the next bit.
I took that as well because, like, I'll be honest, you know, fair position of vulnerability. Like, I've always, my previous job, like I hid behind who I was, like that was my personality trait, right? And it's
like a front.
I was good at the job, and I knew that I was good at the job.
Yeah.
You know, and there's probably deeper things in there that I don't know why I done that, but like people used to say, like that was my personality trait. Like you hide behind your job, but that's who you are. And I'm like,
but when you start to get success, that kind of does happen to you. I think because you're chasing that next success. It's like you say, and then you have those wee dips,
the lows,
and then you're like, oh, shit. Where's that next wee success coming from?
And people around you aren't comfortable with the growth you're going through. Yeah. Like even so, we're actually moving. Me and the family are moving to Dubai in a few weeks, and like some of the comments for friends and families, like it's not they're not happy for you. It's like it's such a massive thing that's outside their comfort zone. They're like, oh my god, what are you doing? Yeah. It's more them that feels a little bit vulnerable.
Successful people take risks, you know, and I'm more analytical. Like I've had some conversations with Calvin, you know, and I'll just be honest, like Calvin is the most driven person that, you know, him and Ryan anyway, that I've spoke to. You know, nothing is ever, no, we can't do that, we can't do that, we can't do that. I'm like, how do we put this in a spreadsheet? How do we make it work? And Calvin said something to me one time, and he was like, look, not anytime, but like sometimes when we have conversations, I feel like I'm telling you stuff and you come up for reasons why we can't do it instead of why we can. And that's that. I mean, don't get me wrong, you need people, obviously you need challenged, and you need, you know, you can't always just be a yes person, but that challenged me. I'm like, I thought, why am I looking at it like that? And it's only because like all of the management training that I've been through, all of the, you know, sales training that I've been through, it's more corporate, and it's like, you know, SWOT analysis, Pedestal, and managing risks, like how's the, you know, the environmental impact to the city coming into your business. And I'm like, that's how I've been, that's how I've been wired to think. And by the way, there's a position for that in the business, but like I say, it can become your personality, right? Totally. You need to open up a wee bit and let the energy.
We've sort of had a really strong relationship from the start. Is that
we're both ginger.
Pasty.
That's a ginger in me as well.
No, you can't come. You're moving to cool. Just stick a wee sun up there for the Dubai. We're all at that factor
50. We have that nice sort of bounce of. I think you need that in a team. Somebody really quite analytical and somebody quite sort of
knows what he's talking about.
No, but there needs to be a point where the person who's like reaching for the stars almost goes, right, you need a wee bit of direction. And then I think sometimes, like in yourself, like you've just touched on, sometimes you need your mind to be open and be like, it's not as big a risk, let's just go for it. We can almost calculate where you're going because you're doing it with information essentially.
Even when we work really well together, I've never really came across somebody that I've struck a relationship with as well. You know, Synergy, I wasn't as educated as Michael is in, you know, tailoring, and like we even speak about looking back 6 months, and it's like I'm putting garments on that I would never put on 6 months ago because I wasn't comfortable. And it's like, wait a minute, open up your mind to, you know, there's more. They say there's no rights or wrongs in fashion, right? But there's definitely do's and don'ts. And I lived in the particles of don't, and then I'm like, you know.
But this industry, even for someone like yourself coming in, is intimidating. I would openly say that. Even for myself, sometimes you'll have a really challenging fit and you'll be doing a fitting with a guy and you'll be like, whoa, you're panicking. You're obviously doing your best to be like, it's cool, let's try this and let's try that. But to see somebody like Dillon coming in and just totally embrace it, and so the things that we've worked with and the software we work with is really quite intricate. But we had some good training, but almost your mind being opened up to just absorbing, like, I'm totally new at this, probably propelled you 2 or 3 years in the future, I think. And I think now you're at a stage where you're proficient and everything that you're doing is calculated, and that you can see when these fittings come back. Even in myself, I'm like, fuck, you know what,
that was good.
And you yourself are getting better at celebrating yourself, which is a big thing that we obviously try and sort of push to our guys, is like, celebrate how difficult that was, and look what you created, because it's bloody hard.
It's the creativity part, isn't it? Because that's something I struggle with. I mean, I say that I'm creative in business sense, but when it comes to things like fashion, other parts of my life, no as creative.
To give you context on what Michael just said, by the way, Dubai, everything's completely bespoke, so all I've ever known is body measurements, showing people fabrics, creating garments and stuff. Glasgow, we introduced made to measure, which is slightly different. You design the garment, with the client, you know, and then we put the client in a fit garment and make alterations to a fit garment. So it's slightly different terminology, different systems you're operating and stuff. So I haven't just came into this 2 weeks ago. It was actually 3 weeks ago. No, I'm just kidding.
I probably made that sound.
Bladed
It just came right
just
off
come
the
off the
back
street.
of a truck. No.
He didn't come for Walkers later. He came for Walkers the Crisps. So no, just to
I
give a
didn't even
background,
realise
just in case anybody's coming in and being like, "You've only been doing this for 3 weeks." So no, I'm only kidding. Dubai, everything's completely bespoke. This is the first time we've done ready to wear. You know, we spent a lot of time making sure that we got the ready to wear garments right, even in terms of like how they fit, how well they fit straight away. Did a lot of market research.
See, when you mean ready to wear, is that more the casual stuff or also the
See upstairs in the upstairs in the store?
Right.
All the suits upstairs are essentially ready to wear because they're built off of a block.
Got you.
Same with the casual stuff.
Right.
Downstairs is the made to measure, what we've done with like your chinos and stuff. So it was definitely difficult embracing, but I like that. Like I always think that it's not always about risk, but it's about embracing the vulnerability, right? It's like, by the way, I've never done this before.
Yeah.
Let's try it. So like Dubai, master tailors will create the garments from scratch, do the body measurements and stuff. Obviously the guys will design the suit with the client, so there's no fit garments, so they'll go for a skeleton fitting, so it'll be like a skeleton garment, you know, no buttons or anything, so if anything needs adjusted or changed they can do that. With made to measure it's slightly different because the garment comes as a finished garment, so there are certain things that you need to get right that can't really be changed, but aye.
In terms of the Glasgow store, that was obviously a big opening. I was a wee bit disappointed it wasn't open in time for my wedding, I've got to say. But I was hoping it was going to be.
Next one.
The next one. Well, maybe not next wedding, to be fair. Too expensive.
But their divorce parties are massive.
They are. Get a divorce suit.
That's it.
But
how
we'll
is
make your
that
wife
getting
one
that
know
set
you because she actually likes us.
How is that in terms of getting that store ready? Because, you know, I just seen the finished product, but I'm guessing it was pretty stressful getting the thing up and running. And
There was a point.
Big shout out to nobody. We done all the work ourselves. I'm only kidding.
There was a point about a month ago, right, where we had a massive delivery. It was like 6 months after we'd opened, and the boxes just kept coming off the truck, right? So you're in work mode, you pile them up at the door, and it wasn't until the truck left and me and Dillon turned round and we looked through the glass doors and there was boxes piled up. Honestly, I could have cried. It just reminded me at the start of when there was boxes to the height of the ceiling and the thickness of the walls. It just totally triggered me to the point where I was like, I'm not getting in there to do that.
The feeling of impending doom. I think the store was still under construction when all of our ready to wear stuff was set to arrive.
Yeah, right.
So the storeroom where it was going was all fine. You know, we were in there just like on the chopping block, like sorting suits out, getting them hung up,
Join us lights to try and see where we're going.
But it just felt like, you know, we're looking, this is a lot of space. And then it just felt like, see, as soon as we started hanging suits up, like,
walls are closed in.
and then there's boxes everywhere. And to be fair, the guys, the joinery guys helped us out massively. And they did a great job. The finish is beautiful. Even Simon Felicid designing it, you know, but very fortunate that there's nowhere really like that in Glasgow, that I would say, and that's not to decry any stores. You know, you've got some really nice premium outlets, but there's nowhere that you can go in, get a coffee. You know, it's like, you know, you grab a seat, sit in a nice Chesterfield, you know, sit and have a conversation, flip through magazines.
It's a place you want to spend time in.
Of course, and you know, the cool thing about, you know, our casual wear is like, you know yourself, you can come in like, right, cool, that t-shirt's maybe a wee bit baggy, fits the neck, fits the collar, fits the sleeves, but it's a wee bit baggy. We've got a tailor in-house that will alter that for you. So so I think that adds a different element to the business as well. And then you're made to measure.
It's subtle as well. I think that was the big thing, because obviously there was a lot of work at the start to get it ready, get the stock there, get everything cleaned, make sure everything's perfect, the till system needed built, everything needed tagged, like to get the retail space up to scratch took a long time. But what I think I'm so proud of is that when somebody comes in, there's no chaos. It's nice and calm. The chaos gets kept at the back. Tailoring can be a very chaotic game, but the the clients don't really feel that, and if they ever did, I feel like it would come across so genuine that they would just be like, well, that's just part of the party. Right?
So it's when we stitch trouser legs onto sleeves. No, and just to go back, like downstairs, you know yourself, that's where you go, it's a little bit more intimate. Moodier lighting, you can spend more time down there. So if like you're shopping for like your wedding suits or your wedding party, you can come in and, you know, look through the fabrics, you know, have a drink, have a coffee, and just relax with the fact that, you know, it's not a hectic retail space. So it's good that you've got the best of both worlds.
Totally.
But I'm very proud.
Downstairs space is a special space. It allows so much more time as well. So even when parties come in, we'll be like, right, let's get the laptop out, show us the venue, what's the flowers going to be like, what do you like, what country is it in, and we take that into consideration when we're styling the whole wedding, because often it's a big wedding party, or what's the dress like, they'll show us, no show him. So it's a bespoke experience.
For sure. And the only thing that we've been missing is an invite, innit? Nobody invites him to the
we'll
wedding.
get that one to Greece.
Use it away all the time though. Every time I look at your Instagrams, these are some mad party somewhere.
To jump on that, people, you know, that's what
in Dillon's back garden.
Just the picnic, the communal garden. I swear I get the grass cut. No, I'm only kidding. No, just to jump on that, because, you know, a lot of my friends will respond to my stories, and we're quite active on socials, but, you know, I think December, you know, leading up to the end of the year, it was just crazy with events, everything, you know, and that's a big requirement, you know, for the networking and meeting people and making sure you're in the right rooms, but people think it's all glamorous.
Oh, it's exhausting.
So, you know, social batteries, you know, those who understand social batteries do get low. And I think there was a time in December where, you know, there was, I would say, 3 out of the 4 weeks, it was 2, 3, 4, 5 events a week. It does get tiring, but we understand the requirements. So it's not always, you know, everybody thinks it's glamorous and you're getting fed. And don't get me wrong, that's a nice part of it. But
I know what you mean, because even all of these events, it's very similar as well. You know, it's the same meals that get pushed out. Now, I'm not. They're essential for, especially what you guys do,
of course.
But
it's the wine that's the issue.
Aye. And they're networking, but a lot of people networking. You know, is it genuine networking? Are they just there just to tag along, and it's like you find the right
trick,
people?
Isn't it? Yeah.
It's finding the events. It's been strategic. You know, I think last year we were just in the position was like, we get invited, we'll go. You know, because we appreciate being invited, but you got to be strategic in terms of like what you're attending. You know, and it's not necessarily just about what you can get out of it, but you need to manage your social battery, right? Because you just
at the start you do need to go to everything and figure out.
Agreed.
Because sometimes you get some hidden gems. We'll go to events, and sometimes you'll be like, let's just see how this goes, and that turns out to be the one you've got 4 or 5 connections from. You're
with
like,
no kind of preconceived ideas when you.
Aye, exactly.
He goes round the wallet, stepping the business cards. Everybody's on the dance floor.
A 5 on the business card.
And there.
It was a lipstick you came home with. It was a bit weird.
No, I brought that with me.
So you're talking about partnerships, and it looks like it's an active strategy for you guys to grow the brand quickly. And I mean, as I say, on socials, you're everywhere. You know, you've got some really cool partnerships that's going on. Is that something you're going to continue doing with the brand to keep growing it?
Definitely. You know, I come from a sales background. It's something that I've had to embrace. Michael's been incredible at it, and some of the people that he's, you know, we can't say too much about the people that we partnership with, because there's some things that are still to kind of trickle over the line, but really exciting times ahead. Things, I think both of us have really had to embrace that approach. And, you know, you speak to the boys in Dubai and they're like, they kick themselves because like, why did we not do this sooner? You know, like, because they've got some incredible partnerships out in Dubai, like with all the golf clubs and just some cool businesses, you know, people who are forward thinking, people who are more like us in terms like in the premium space. So I'm excited to see where this year goes. We've already got some incredible events lined up. If you're still in the country, we'll maybe invite you to one.
Absolutely.
I was waiting for that.
But I'm excited to see where it goes, and some really cool things in the horizon.
And even just to kind of be going in that direction is really exciting, because we sometimes we'll approach businesses, or sometimes they'll approach us, or whatever the sort of style of it is, but we kind of, I would say you might not agree with this, or I actually probably will agree with this. I think sometimes we go above and beyond sort of even the corporate expectations sometimes. So I think that's probably where we come across really authentically, is like,
and different from
we
all
believe, but we believe in the strategy of being like, this is how your business could grow. We don't just think of it as a personal point of view. We kind of approach them and be like, this could be good for your trajectory or X, Y, Z. So it is a partnership at the end of the day. I think you do need to remember that. I think sometimes it's not just a contract on the table.
Totally.
There's a relationship to be built there.
That's what I was going to say, and it's all about building the right relationships, right? And to try and discuss too much, but the good thing about the people that we are talking to are people that trust their ability, right? It's no, sometimes when you get, we have came across people who have been in corporate businesses for long periods of time, and it's quite stuffy and it's a lot of red tape and stuff. The people that we're speaking to are actually right, cool, this is our expertise, that's your expertise. We need to make sure that the eyes are
bring
dotted.
that personality to that as well.
100%.
And as long as that aligns with you guys, that's
this is what we need. And it's like, right, cool, well, we know you need that. And it's the old cliche, and I can't believe I'm going to say it, but it's like under promising and over delivering.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So it's like, we want this, right, cool, we'll do that, but without even mentioning we'll do this, 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 and this, and just say because we appreciate that, that's what we'll give you. There's no, you don't need to, say yes to everything, but we just want to do that to show you how much we actually value the partnership. So
and that shows our standard. Like, we like to do things to a really high standard, and I think sometimes that's maybe where the UK market's been surprised, because I think for the longest period of time people have been used to it is a contract on the table, and like, no, that's what we get and that's what you get, and it's
formal and
almost
clinical
like a negotiation.
Whereas
it's an opportunity for us to
plus it's
show
more
our flair.
it's more exactly flair, creative. Exactly. I was just going to say that exactly. So
yourself, being partnered with us. We even mention certain things about your posture and stuff that we shouldn't mention on the podcast. Right?
No, that is one of the reasons I was really keen to work with you guys and partner with you and get you sponsors of the podcast, because these are a premium brand. We've kind of got similar audiences in the sense that it's a lot of business owners, a lot of professionals you're dealing with, same with me. And it's interesting the geographic side of it as well, because yes, I'm moving to Dubai and there's stores over there, and there's opportunities to do more collaborations over there with you guys as well as getting access to good guests over there as well. And then I'll be back in Glasgow quite often doing this podcast as well. So yeah, I think it's a good partnership for both of us, I think. And I like the way it was kind of loose. It wasn't, as you say, it wasn't very, there's no written agreements and stuff. That's not how I like to work with things either.
Aye. No, just and to give you the credit, because people may think that, you've approached us and asked us to sponsor you, and that's how we've kind of done this. Like, you were a customer before anything, right? So we appreciate that business. You came in, you put your trust in the brand, right? So the fact that we can repay that debt speaks volumes, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's, we put ourselves out there and you put yourselves out there, and that same thing. All of our clients have our number, they know where we are. There's no sort of falsehoods there. It's very authentic. I always think that we come across quite authentic, and I think that's when you resonate with people like yourself. It's something's bound to happen. You know what I mean? And it might not happen straight away, it might be a year down the line or whatever it is, but I think our appetite to work with people like yourselves shows that that's what we prioritise, rather than a big financial gain or whatever it is. It's authenticity.
If you go into it with like, I'm going to make money out of this or that, I think that's the wrong thing with any partnership. You've got to resonate first, and then what's the outcome? It's not necessarily money. It doesn't need to be money. Like, we try to achieve something and a goal here.
Well, what are you? Like, that's sorry to cut you off there, but what are you? It's like, I'm Dillon, managing director, Suited Boots. It's like, see, before I get money, that's who I have to be. In order to be that person, obviously the finances come after, but it's like, I'm a tailor. I need to be a tailor in order to get money. So who are you primarily, right? You can't just say, I'm this person and I dictate or I demand this. It's like, you actually have to be the person.
Our partnerships and our relationships also speak for us. We're very aware of that, and that's why the people that we partner with are all people who we speak to on a daily basis. So you would go for a pint with. You're borrowing each other's sort of reputation, almost, and that's where I think it gets less collaborative as you go up the chain, because a lot of these people, their business and their sort of stature is almost their ego, and they'll be like, you don't align with me and you don't align with that, whereas we don't really have that. We're in a position right now where we probably carry a lot of weight because we are visible, but a lot of our sort of direction is essentially with other people. It's not just us going to the top, it's like we're all going together.
Exactly. Piggyback on each other's skills and experiences, audiences as well. Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
We've actually, it's not been announced yet and can't give you too many details. We've got a big event coming up that we're planning September time, which I'll talk to you about in more detail, because we're going to need a really elegant premium brand to help us with.
Nice.
As we kind of wrap up, guys, what does the future look like for you guys, Suited and Booted, over the next couple of years? What's the big plans, if you can share any of them?
I'll do one, you do one. I'll go for it. You go first.
You think, man?
I think.
The future for us, I think, is, they sound ridiculous, but doubling down on what we do. Probably the same with yourself as a lot of things we can't speak about right now, but the aspirations of where this brand is going is pretty impressive for me. And I love tailoring, I love the industry. To see the direction, even just that trip there, which I think was amazing, even just to get the 4 of us in the room and really sort of strategize where we think this is going. The boys are Ryan and Calvin are very inspiring, and when they sort of plan something out and they map something out, you feel like it's going to happen. So for me, I think it's expansion of what we're already doing. I think it's getting tighter, getting better, bringing more people into the company to sort of add strings to the bow, sort of maybe things that we outsource, we could maybe do ourselves, and we can maybe build stronger departments almost in the company. Personally, that excites me a lot, is the expansion. I couldn't say whether it's going to be another 50 stores or anything like that. I think it's just honing in on what we already do is amazing. And the products and the garments and the services that we're going to be offering this year is next level. What we done last year in the first 6-8 months was amazing, but that was us just sort of getting started.
Yeah.
And now we've got a voice, we've got an idea, and we've slowly started to hone in on our tactics, essentially. That was a really long-winded answer.
No, that's perfect. And, just to digress a wee bit, is I think with the mindset thing, is like, we had our best munch. So, cut.
That comes later.
Munching we had our best financial month in January, and I take pride in saying that, because
most businesses don't.
Everybody's all January's a quiet month, and we never went in with the concept of, this is going to be a quiet month. We just doubled down on exactly what Michael says. But to answer your question in terms of what does the future look like, if we could, the growth that we have seen, and again, not necessarily financially, but if we look back at our last buyer's trip to where we were this time, what we got achieved in the same amount of time, if we can do that year on year. And another thing just before we go is that what I take a lot of pride in and what I'm excited in is the fact that Glasgow was the first store we've done ready to wear. So we've built the platform. Essentially, we are setting the blueprint.
Yep.
Or we
basically
set
lift and shift, doesn't it? Put it anywhere.
So what we've done
exactly
will be replicated elsewhere. And I take quite a lot of pride in that.
Absolutely.
So the fact that, the boys might open certain stores or, go in different areas or different locations, knowing them, that's probably the case. But they'll make sure that we get everything right first, of course, because first impressions last, right? But the fact that we have built something that they would be willing to say, no, they've done a great job, let's take that and put that here.
And you're not getting cold to a city because the social media presence is getting larger and larger, and getting more and more influencers and more key people who influence just kind of following you and partnering up with you. You're not getting a city cold.
No, we were meeting people. Sorry, I know we need to wrap up, but we were meeting people who are massive, global, and we're telling them who we are, and they're saying, I've heard of you. One of our account managers is like, I was taking a golf lesson with my golf coach the other day, not even in the UK, and he's like, I've heard of Suited and Booted.
Wow, that's really cool.
And we're finding our voice.
Hopefully they don't listen to mine, to be fair.
Well, guys, it's been really, really great having you on. I'm really excited to see where our partnership goes as well. And again, thanks very much for coming today, for partnering up and sponsoring the podcast. And we've got to do this again sometime soon, maybe in your place.
Absolutely. Anytime you want, mate, that space is free.
Awesome.
Thank you for having us. It's been great.
Pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Right,
Cheers.
Thank you.